Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast, where we provide you with your weekly diagnosis of everything fantasy football. Whether it's season-long leagues, dynasty, DFS, or sometimes even IDP, we got you covered all year long. Good morning. What's good? You know the vibes. Jon Jeune here at the real Jon J _FF, and welcome back to another live episode of the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast. It is week 16, and for most of us, this is the penultimate week here until we crown ourselves, hopefully, league champions of our fantasy football leagues. Look, between the injuries piling up and, few surprise opportunities opening up, the waiver wire can still decide who's playing for a championship next week. So today we're breaking down the top waiver wire ads across each position, who can help you survive this week, who brings upside for this little mini playoff run, and which defenses you should be locking in now for the stretch run. Before we jump in, quick reminder, if you want my full waiver breakdown, rankings, weekly notes, the cheat sheet, head over to patreon.com/FFDX. You can join for free to access the FFDX cheat sheet or become a supporter for just $1 a month, where you'll get the weekly waiver wire article, expanded rankings, and the Sunday morning Q&A. All right, let's lock in for the week 16 waiver show as it starts now. Look, so we had more injuries from this week. It's just like the season that just will not stop with the injuries. Arizona running back Bam Knight suffered an ankle injury, did not return. Chicago wide receiver Roma Dunze was ruled out right before kickoff with a foot injury. So hopefully you guys were able to go ahead and make that switch, get him out of your lineup. Wide receiver Luther Burden of the Chicago Bears, he suffered an ankle injury, did not return. Green Bay wide receiver Christian Watson suffered a chest injury, did not return. Expected to be okay, though. Houston running back Woody Marks suffered an ankle injury, did not return. Kansas City quarterback Patrick Mahomes suffered a torn ACL and will miss the remainder of the season. That obviously sucks. Sucks to see anybody go down with an injury, but obviously when it's one of the best players in the league at the quarterback position, it's definitely, hits a little bit harder. And it just sucks because the Chiefs have been eliminated from playoff contention, and this is week 15 that this happened, right? So, by all accounts, he, hopefully he could be okay, right? We've seen guys come back in, 9 months or shorter. So 9 months from now would put him at September 1st, so week 1. So, or not September 1st, but, week 1. So possibility he does make it out there, but, something we'll have to watch and monitor throughout the entire season, or leading up to the season, rather. We also lost Micah Parsons. I know we're not talking IDPs right now, but also lost Micah Parsons to a torn ACL, so that obviously sucks as well. Just not great. Las Vegas wide receiver Tyler Lockett suffered a wrist injury, did not return. Los Angeles wide receiver Devontae Adams suffered a hamstring and did not return. New Orleans running back Devin Neal suffered a hamstring injury, also did not return. Yeah, injuries do not care whether we are in the midst of the fantasy playoffs or not. They are going to hit, unfortunately. All right. Let us talk some players, specifically some quarterbacks, some guys who we can count on this week, potentially, depending on what you need, obviously. We'll start with this guy. Sorry, just dealing with some things on my end. Start with Houston quarterback CJ Stroud. Stroud is available in 52% of Yahoo leagues look, he came through for us last week. We picked him against Arizona. Came through 3 touchdown passes, 23 plus fantasy points, and he's in a similar spot this week than he was last week, right? This week he gets the Las Vegas defense. That's allowed the 14th most fantasy points to the opposing quarterbacks over their last 3 games. He's at home. He's double-digit favorites, just like he was the week before. So, um, yeah, I like Stroud this week. I think he's, heating up. Nico Collins has been heating up as well. So, uh, Stroud, pretty solid option going forward. Next up, let's talk Atlanta quarterback Kirk Cousins, available 92% of Yahoo leagues. Look, we talked about Cousins last week. I knew he would be a solid play, but I'd be lying if I said I expected the 373-yard, 3 touchdown performance that we got from Cousins last week, right? And while I don't expect that to happen again this week, I do like the matchup. He gets Arizona, allowed the 11th most fantasy points to quarterbacks over their last 3 games. We just saw what they allowed to CJ Stroud. And so I think Cousins can take advantage of that opportunity here. Next up, we got Minnesota quarterback J.J. McCarthy, available in 65% of Yahoo leagues. Now has back-to-back games with 20-plus fantasy points, and both came in plus matchups. And while he gets a plus matchup the next 2 weeks here against the New York Giants and the Detroit Lions, 15th most and third most fantasy points respectively to opposing quarterbacks over their last 3 games. Next up, let's talk Carolina quarterback Bryce Young, available in 82% of Yahoo leagues. He has at least 15 plus fantasy points in 3 of his last 4 games. Gets Tampa Bay this week, who have allowed the second most fantasy points to the quarterback position. Apologies for my sound effects here. I was messing around with this with the StreamYard like banners that you display on the YouTube or the video, and one of them was just sliding all the way everywhere. So that was my sound effect for that. So I apologize. Anyway, let's move on to next up at the quarterback position. New Orleans quarterback Tyler Shuck, available 91% of Yahoo leagues, now has 3 straight games with 15 plus fantasy points, and now gets a New York Jets defense that's allowed the 6th most fantasy points to the quarterback position over their last 3 games. All right, let's move on to running backs. Let's talk Washington running back Ja'Cory Crossky-Merritt, available in 52% of Yahoo leagues. Had an opportunity to be the lead back with Chris Rodriguez out this past week, and he delivered with 15.6 PPR points, rushing for 96 yards and a touchdown. Now gets a Philadelphia defense who allowed the 9th most PPR points to the quarterback or the running back position over their last 3 games. It's been a season for Bill, right? Hasn't really been all that productive from a fantasy perspective. And I think, he got a lot of hype. And, we kind of were waiting all year for that hype to really come to fruition. And it took Chris Rodriguez to get injured in week 15 in order for us to really see it. But, again, these stretch of matchups here is kind of why we liked Chris Rodriguez. But if he's out with a groin, then Ja'Cory Crossky-Merritt makes a ton of sense. All right, let's move on to the next guy on this list. And I don't even know if I feel like I don't know if I should even mention him, but we'll do it anyway. Los Angeles Rams running back Blake Corum, available in 60% of Yahoo leagues, right? Like, we've been talking about Corum and all these other insurance policy running backs for a minute now, right? We've been talking about Corum the last couple of weeks with his increased involvement in the offense. He just seems to keep his streak of double-digit PPR points going. He's now at 3 straight. And again, he should be considered a high priority insurance policy at the position here. Next up, Arizona running back Michael Carter, available in 95% of Yahoo leagues. With Bam Knight missing time, Carter was the leader in the backfield by default, scored double-digit PPR points on 18 total touches, and he should continue to see the bulk of the work the next 2 weeks versus Atlanta and Cincinnati, right? His only competition for touches would be Amari DiMarcado. He's returning from an injury, so we'll have to see what his status is, but if at worst, it's a two-man backfield between Michael Carter and Amari DeMarcado. At best, it's Michael Carter getting the bulk of the work here. Next up, let's talk Houston running back Jon Jeune, available in 99% of Yahoo leagues. He was elevated from the Texans practice squad with Nick Chubb inactive due to injury. Nick Chubb had a rib injury last week, so he was out. And then once Woody Marks went down in the game with a ankle injury, it was Jordan who ended up leading the backfield over veteran running back Dare Agumbawale. So he led the backfield with 15 carries for 101 yards, scoring double-digit PPR points. If Marks is forced to miss time, Jordan should see more opportunities. Next up, let's talk New Orleans running backs, Audric Estime and Evan Hull, both available in 100% of Yahoo leagues. Both these guys saw carries out of the backfield after Devin Neal went down with that hamstring injury. Estime added 3 receptions in the passing game. Both take on the New York Jets as home favorites this week, and the Jets come into this matchup allowing the most PPR points to opposing running backs over their last 3 games. Insurance policy running backs, as always, San Francisco running back Brian Robinson Jr., Green Bay running back Emmanuel Wilson, Buffalo running back Ray Davis, Atlanta running back Tyler Algier. Obviously, we talked about Blake Corum, Kenneth Gainwell. He is no longer in that category. I didn't talk about him on the waivers today because he's the guy we've talked about many, many times before. He's got standalone value, so if he's available in your league, he's the top guy to add outside of maybe Jacory Cross-Gamer. All right. Let's move on to the wide receiver position. And let's talk Green Bay wide receiver Jayden Reed. He's available in 59% of Yahoo leagues. Reed was more involved in the offense this past week, seeing a season-high 6 targets for 5 receptions and 55 receiving yards and scoring double-digit PPR points. He gets a Chicago defense this week that's allowed the 11th most PPR points to opposing wide receivers over their last 3 games. Now, let's talk New York Jets wide receiver Adonai Mitchell, available in 84% of Yahoo leagues. Mitchell has really started to separate himself as the top receiver with Garrett Wilson sideline, has at least 6 targets in 3 straight games and a touchdown in 2 of his last 3 games. He's dealing with the rookie quarterback, undrafted rookie Brady Cook. Seemed to have a better opportunities with him last week, so we'll have to see how that continues, but Mitchell seems to be the preferred target for the time being. Next up, let's talk Atlanta wide receiver David Sills V, available in 100% of Yahoo leagues. Sills saw 10 targets, which he converted into 6 receptions for 78 receiving yards, and now gets an Arizona defense this week that has allowed the 4th most PPR points to opposing wide receivers over their last 3 games. And looks like we got a question from Jordan Love 1283. Who we feeling between Burrow and Stafford? Burrow and Stafford. If I'm not mistaken, let me go check the matchups really quick. I could have sworn the Rams play Seattle, right? That's right. And then do Cincinnati play Miami this week? No, they play Pittsburgh. Nope, I lied. They play Miami. Okay, so Burrow or Stafford? Stafford has the tougher matchup, right? Seattle, they 32nd, right? The least amount of PPR or fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks over their last 3 games, while Miami has allowed the 24th, right? I feel like you want to go against Miami. So the only reason why I'm even hesitant to say Joe Burrow is because of and maybe I'm overthinking this, but the interview that he had, or it almost seemed like he was depressed playing football. And then the fact that the Bengals are not in contention for the playoffs, so then it's just like, they did say he's going to start the remaining 3 games of the season. But yeah, I just if Devontae Adams was healthy, I think this would be Stafford for sure. Again, just because like I'd much rather play the players who have something to play for, right? Like the Rams are trying to win this division. They're trying to lock up seeding in the NFC. Like the Bengals are not doing anything, right? Like they're so that's why I'm like I want to say Stafford, but uh, I'm going to go out and say final answer is Joe Burrow because of the matchup against Miami and Devontae Adams. Probably not gonna play. So Jordan Love, good luck, sir. All right, let's move on to the next matchup here. We've got the not matchup, but uh, option here at the tight end position, and let's talk Chicago tight end Colson Loveland, available in 60% of Yahoo leagues. He scored double-digit PPR points in 3 of his last 4 games. He's seen at least 5 targets in each of his last 4 games. And with Odunze and Burden both banged up, that could potentially mean more looks here for Loveland going forward. Next up, we got Miami tight end Darren Waller, available in 63% of Yahoo leagues, scored 25 plus PPR points in week 15, catching 7 of 8 targets for 66 yards and 2 touchdowns, and now gets a Cincinnati defense this week that obviously is the Cincinnati defense. And then he gets Tampa Bay the week after. 2 teams that are top 3 in terms of PPR points allowed to the tight end position over their last 3 games. Next up, LA Rams tight end Colby Parkinson, available in 96% of Yahoo leagues. Now it's time to start taking Parkinson seriously here. He scored double-digit PPR points in 4 of his last 6 games, having scored 6 touchdowns during that span. And with Devontae Adams now potentially out for multiple weeks, it might mean more opportunities for Parkinson, especially in the red zone. All right, that is it for the tight ends. Let's move on to the defenses. Let's talk the New Orleans defense and special teams, available in 83% of Yahoo leagues. They are 4.5-point home favorites against the New York Jets this week, and then they get Tennessee next week. So a potential 2-week streamer here at the defensive special teams position in New Orleans. I think that's something we definitely, you know, appreciate as a defense that we can stream for 2 consecutive weeks because it saves us a roster spot. Next up, we got Buffalo. They are 10.5-point favorites on the road against Cleveland. So they're available in 46% of Yahoo leagues. They probably the top option here, just given the fact that they are 10.5-point favorites. They're going up against Cleveland, who's been, very friendly to opposing defenses. So probably the top option here for me. Next up, we got Detroit. They're available in 47% of Yahoo leagues. They play Pittsburgh, and they're 6.5-point favorites at home. Then they get Minnesota the week after, so another potential 2-week streamer here. But their defense is also not that kind of like they give up. They give up a lot in the passing game, so they're kind of what's the boomer bust, right? High risk, high reward with Detroit. Next up, we got San Francisco. They're available in 50% of Yahoo leagues, and they're 5.5-point favorites on the road against Indianapolis and the 44-year-old Phillip Rivers. So, also that's crazy. I know I haven't spoken about it at all on the show, but Phillip Rivers coming back is just mind-boggling to me, right? Like, and then they showed there were people tweeting out Kirk Benkert and Chase. No, it wasn't Chase Daniel. Yeah, it was Chase Daniel. Just tweeting out about how his health insurance ran out or was going to run out, right? NFL players get free health insurance for 5 years post playing career. After that, they have to start paying the premiums. And so obviously Phillip Rivers, he has a huge family, has 10 kids. It's him and his wife. and he was gonna have to start paying health insurance pretty soon. So, because it was like, I was sitting there wondering, I was like, yo, why would he come back? Like, you're chilling. Like, what are you doing? Like, go enjoy life, right? Like, and people are like, oh, maybe you signed for the vet minimum. I'm like, if you pull me off my couch to play, you called me, I didn't call you. Like, you're gonna have to pay a decent chunk. But the health insurance angle makes a ton of sense now. But yeah, that's just crazy. Absolutely crazy. Anyway, look ahead to week 17. Let's talk the New York Giants because they play the Las Vegas Raiders in week 17. So that's a pretty good week 17 defense to be looking at right there. All right. That is all we got there. So that'll do it for the week 16 waiver show. At this point in the season, it's all about upside opportunity and protecting your lineup. One smart ad this week could be the difference between advancing or heading home early this offseason. If you found this helpful, make sure you like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the Week 16 matchup show. And don't forget the FFDX cheat sheet, expanded rankings, waiver wire articles, Sunday Q&A access are all available right now at patreon.com/FFDX. The cheat sheet is 100% free. All those other perks come for just $1 a month. The best value in the fantasy industry. So appreciate y'all for tuning in early. Good luck this week. Go advance. Dominate your matchups and advance. Right? And I'll catch y'all next time. Have a good one. Catch you on Friday for the matchup show. Peace.